Hey man, what's got you off in your phone there?
Oh, just going through all the funny Mothman memes and supernatural shit posts I've been wanting to share. I just don't know where to put the posts yet.
Don't you know about the Supernatural Selection Discord?
We have a Discord?
Yeah, for years, dude. Where have you been?
Can people chat with the hosts and get previews of upcoming episodes and generally post funny shit as much as they want with other listeners?
I mean, if that's your bag. I mean, personally, I wouldn't do that, but there are even live streaming events for the shows there, too. You've been in a few. How do you not know this stuff?
It must have been my doppelganger. How do I get into the Discord?
It's easy. Just visit discord.supernaturalselectionpod.com. Now say that 3 times fast.
Well, that's perfect. Now I can share 3 terabytes of Hollow Earth memes. Get it? Terabytes.
Never mind. Forget I said anything. Just don't do that. You should definitely not visit discord.supernaturalselectionpod.com to join the Discord. We don't want you there.
Too late. I'm already posting my alien abduction fan fiction with the general chat.
Join the hosts and listeners of Supernatural Selection on the official Discord. Just visit discord.supernaturalselectionpod.com.
I almost forgot to say I was recording.
Oh boy. That's good.
This is already a great start. I was afraid I wouldn't have anything to say when we started recording, and then I realized, oh no, my brain.
Yeah, you can always turn to failure.
Yep, failure is always...
My brains.
My brains. Yeah. Your specialized... Hello, and welcome to Supernatural Selection. I'm your host, Kevin. With me this week are Mike the Skeptic. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Maybe.
What'd you have for dinner, Mike?
Costco chicken tikka masala, naan, and rice.
Damn, son.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I had like 2 link sausages in white bread, so... You know,
you are white bread.
Yes. Ghetto hot dogs. And we've got Mr. David Davis. David, how are you?
I'm doing okay. Excited to get to tonight's episode, so...
Oh, yeah. This is going to be a fun one. And tell me, David, what did you have for dinner?
Pancakes.
You lucky son of a bitch. We were actually just talking about Waffle House earlier today.
But motherfucker.
I know. I fucking love Waffle House so damn much.
Yeah,
when you eat there.
We got to work and somebody had Waffle House. Like they had one of those
film gauge.
Yeah, one of those cups of syrup there. Like, you know, the prepackaged syrup and with the foil cover.
Yeah, everybody's like, I don't see why everybody's making such a big deal about Waffle House. I get a takeout, and it's like, that's your fucking problem.
Yeah, the closest thing that we have to, like, Waffle House, it's a chain here. It's either IHOP or Denny's.
Yeah.
Like, I can get better shit at, like, an actual, like, little diner location, but...
Yeah. Well, let me tell you something, man. Next distraction hole, I'm going to talk about the myriad forms of not Waffle Houses. Anyway, before we get started and get out of talking about breakfast foods, I just want to plug Spooky Dice Bag right up front now that David's a member of the crew. We were having a great time over there. You can find Spooky Dice Bag on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. I've been on there for, probably a year now, possibly a little longer. I don't remember. And David's on now, and one day we'll get Mike.
Shal is a goddamn delight. Oh, speaking of which, hello everyone, this is Shal Noctis.
Yeah. No, I just love the fact that that motherfucker doesn't know how to leave a room through a door.
I like that he doesn't understand inflation.
Yep. Not a goddamn clue.
Like balloons, not like the financial.
no,
inflation.
financial.
Just understand how balloons down. I'm making a joke.
Oh no, that's fair. Like I mean, when he was alive, a night at a night at an inn and a breakfast and a dinner were like 3 silver, and now it's like holy shit, $5 for a tunic.
Yeah,
or for 5 gold for a tunic.
5 gold for that. You must be mad.
Oh, I completely forgot about the fucking rock concert. Okay, we'll talk about this some other time. So, David, you're in the driver's seat for this one, and this is one of your history heavy ones, correct?
Yeah. This is one of those where it's like I just kind of knew it was going to end up being a 2-parter, and I'm like, okay, fuck it, going to pull the trigger. So if you've read the title, you know that the nuns aren't even in this episode.
You son of a bitch. The funnest, sexiest part, and we're not even going to cover it yet.
Right. But I think what I want to do is because, this is going to be kind of a very immersive experience. And to kind of get us into the headspace of one of our episode's subjects, I want to play a little bit of a clip from what Father Urbain Grandier heard in his head constantly. And Kevin, if you'd be willing to play that for us.
Absolutely. All right, Mike. I want you to remember there's a Frenchman in, the 1500s?
16.
Yeah.
1600s? And this is probably what was going through his head the whole time.
This would make a good distraction hole game. How long before you tap out?
I just did. That was a compilation of anime girl noises.
I saw that somewhere today. I didn't watch it because I was at work.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I can't watch this at work.
Yeah, it's just, yeah.
And let me guess, it's all anime girls like, looking at food or something.
It's all like just reactionary stuff. Nothing sexy about it.
Yeah.
It just, and its gut is so ASMR-y.
Yeah.
I hate it. But so that's
that
probably
sounds
what
like
the
a Vocaloid. ASMR.
Oh my God, you're right.
Holy shit, let's patent that shit.
Oh hell yeah. But so that is what's going through this Frenchman's head all day, every day.
You horny for them nuns.
Yep. You have no idea.
It's often we'll find out that the nuns were also horny for him too. So today's episode is on the possessions of Loudun. And let me make sure that I got that spelled right in the title there.
I thought it was pronounced Loudun.
Loudun. I don't know. It's French. Like I'm gonna butcher this either way.
You know what?
So it's
Go with your pronunciation.
No, guys. It's London. This town you're looking for is London.
Oh God damn it, Mike. Well, okay, you're right in the fact that they turned the first N upside down.
There you go. Yeah. So it's Loudun.
Yeah.
It's Loudun. So yeah. Our story today is one of a handsome priest who was equally charismatic and reviled, whose series of slights, affairs, and petty conflicts during a time of mass hysteria intersect with a changing France. This is where the medieval world began to transition to this idea of like absolute power, tenuously shared between a church and a monarchy. And though he would be burned at the stake, accused of witchcraft, his true crime was being a horny asshole who pissed off a lot of people.
Yeah, spoilers. This doesn't end happy.
So today we're talking about Father Urbain Grandier and the events leading up to the infamous 1630s possessions of Loudun, France.
All right, I got 2 things I want to bring up. First off, he was handsome in the 1600s sense in that he didn't actively had open running sores on his face. And number 2, I would really like to see a film where this guy is played by Matt Berry.
Yeah, when you put that in the notes, that like Matt Berry, his character was Laszlo from What We Do in the Shadows is just how I picture this motherfucker now. It's so
I've ruined him for you. I know.
So a lot of reading on this one. A lot of sources. So I have several sources that are included in the document linked directly, which you can find in the show notes.
Definitely start utilizing our show notes to find the docs. You'll be happy you did.
Yeah, you'll see that we've done our research. Take that commenting asshole. Anyway.
Yeah, you fuckers.
But I want to mention that my principal source in this episode is Aldous Huxley's The Devils of Loudun. This was the text that kind of guided my approach to the subject and resulted this in becoming a 2-part episode. Specifically because there's this great deal of information regarding the lead up to the events surrounding possession hysteria, and it was just absolutely fascinating to me.
That's absolutely fascinating.
Absolutely fascinating.
Is AbFab?
Yes.
Yes. I also want to mention the Witchcraft Sourcebook 2nd edition by Brian P. Levac, which I have used in my in the series we did on the Malleus Maleficarum.
Right.
There was also a pretty cool write-up in Occult World. There was also Edmund Goldsmith's The Devils of Loudun. And we also have Looking Back, The Possessions at Loudun by Craig E. Stevenson. And then also Alexandre Dumas comes up here as well. Yes.
Yeah.
So plenty of additional sources, but these are the major ones I worked with. Again, you can see the scale of research in the notes.
Yeah. I would make a joke about episode length at this point, but I'm about to tackle Chaos Magic followed by Kiri Thornley, so I'm going to keep my damn mouth shut.
Yeah. I'm just kind of embracing it. You know what I mean? It's I know that my style is I write too much, and I'm going to go for it. So, anyway.
Embrace your inner lore hold.
Yes, exactly. So, let's set the stage here. So, central to understanding the case of the possessions and the climate of paranoia that led Father Urbain Grandier to burn to death were the were the tense political circumstances in France under the reign of King Louis XIII and the Huguenot population.
Now, funny but more or less unrelated story. When I was a baby and low birth weight due to smoking while pregnant, when I was a baby, a family friend of ours nicknamed me Huguenot and gave me a mouth harp. And I just kind of wanted to bring that nickname up, and I kind of want, people to start calling me Huguenot. So it'd be kind of fun.
So you said smoking while pregnant, so how'd they get the cigarette in your mom?
Man, you don't want to know. You do not want to know. Mike, did your mom smoke while she was pregnant with you?
She says she didn't, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah. There are questions. But anyway, sorry, I just wanted to bring that up because when you said Huguenot, I was like, shit, that was my nickname.
Well, why was that your nickname?
I don't know. That's just what he called me. I mean, the same reason they called me Chunk. It's just a name.
He was a very chunky baby. Very girthy.
Actually, I was tiny. They said I was the size of a chunk of hamburger meat.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Again, low birth weight.
Jesus Christ.
Well, I meant after a year or so, when you're still a baby, but after you've grown some.
You want your baby to look like ground beef. Okay.
Yeah, no. Ed Larson was the biggest baby ever born in Florida. I may have been the smallest baby born in Pulaski, Mississippi.
You were big enough for a slider. Anyway.
Yes, I was a crystal patty.
So, as it seems to be tradition for me, in this episode I write there is an incredibly complex tapestry of history involved in the lead-up of the actual topic itself. It involves political dynasties, religious persecution, and rebellion. I don't even have time to get into the Medici history that helps inform what's going on in 1600s France.
We're just gonna need another spin-off show for history called But I Digress.
Yeah, please. If you want us to do this history show, let me know. That would tickle my soul.
Yeah. Shit, let's do a technology show for Mike. How's that sound?
Yeah, no, I'd be down for that. Okay, so anyway, let's quit planning for new episodes. Let's go ahead.
Yep, let's stop talking network shit.
Right. So let me speed run some European history here. As with a lot of European history, it comes down to Catholics versus Protestants. We all remember the Protestant Reformation of the 1500s from our history classes. Martin Luther had his 99 Theses. Protestant populations emerged in predominantly Catholic regions, and some kings converted their faiths. People start killing one another based on differing interpretations of the Bible, like in the earlier Crusades, just down to even more narrow doctrine. So, yeah. Anyway, as populations came to separate from the Catholic Church following this period, these new Protestant factions would begin to bristle at the state of various European countries, which were still largely controlled by Catholicism. And this was the case in France. Now, the French Calvinist Protestants, who I will henceforth refer to as the Huguenots, were offered a form of protection by Henry IV through the Edict of Nantes. Specifically, signed in 1598, the edict promised the minority Huguenots rights in France, which was a primarily Catholic nation. So this helped to end a 36-year series of wars known as what else? The French Wars of Religion.
I would have also accepted the I couldn't think of a name wars. They didn't really get very creative. The 30 Years' War, the French Indian War, the
War of the Roses was pretty.
Okay.
Yeah,
but that's like the outlier, right?
No, that's fair. But like this sounds familiar to us, right? If we've had a big history of Europe.
Yeah, I mean, I know about the Huguenots. Mike, any of this sound familiar to you?
I mean, probably went over it in school, but nothing I like really remember.
Right, but you remember Martin Luther.
Oh, yeah.
It's because 99 Thesis and a bitch ain't one. I'm sorry, I was hoping to work that in.
I'm glad you forced it. So.
Yep. Let me shoehorn this in real quick.
Right. So there's this history of tension in the region, mostly caused by this kind of religious schism, right? So anyway, Henry IV is fucking assassinated, and he's replaced by Louis XIII, his son. Now, Louis XIII becomes the King of France and Navarre until those two regions are finally brought together under a single kingdom. So Navarre would have been like Western France closer to Spain in that kind of region. Also, he was 9 years old when he was named king.
Jesus Christ. If I had that kind of power at 9, I pronounce my region to be Sir Optimus fucking Prime.
And you know what? You're the king. You can swear they can't do shit about it.
Yeah, no. What are you going to do? Spank me?
Mike, what would have been your first proclamation if you were a king at 9?
God, 9... Probably like, bring back the dinosaurs.
Mike, you would have been personally responsible for Jurassic Park.
Well, Jurassic Park in, 17th century Europe probably wouldn't have been very spectacular.
But
it'd be some cows with horns stapled to them.
But here's the thing. In like 1600s Europe, you've got like the smartest men who are trying to figure out and study these dinosaur things. So that just means that that question's going to be on their mind, and that technology might happen sooner, or at least we might start thinking about things in a way in which to bring them back. So you could hundreds of years in the future, obviously, but it's like a snowball.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, this being the 1600s, you would have had the most advanced scientists available explaining to you ether.
Yeah, no, they would have been drinking mercury and been like, okay, this is going to help us figure out how to bring back the dragons.
Yep.
Yeah, because, we don't really get the term dinosaurs until, the 19th century?
Something like that.
Yeah. Well,
the iguanodon.
Speaking of a 9-year-old who's above his head, still not quite ready to run a major nation, his mother, Marie de' Medici, acted as regent. So we've got Italian nobility intermingled with the French court here.
I was going to say, I still stand by my Optimus Prime choice.
Oh, exactly. Now, she had her own schemes involving the Italians, and eventually Louis XIII wrested control of his throne, exiled his mother, and executed her conspirators. This is when he's a little older. He's not doing this shit at 9 years old, obviously.
Okay.
Right.
I was going to say.
But that's how intermingled these different royal groups are, to where you have what is essentially an Italian gangster who is working with the Queen of France, the Queen Mother, right? It's just again like small world that takes you like a month to travel through. That was Europe at that time.
Shit, if we do that history podcast, we're just going to have to do like a 9-part series on the Habsburg chin.
Right. So now we have this situation where there is a contentious religious minority granted rights, a young monarch who has taken control of the throne from his mother's conspiracy, and his dad was murdered in a traffic jam.
What?
Yeah. He was assassinated while in a carriage. Does this remind you of anything?
A little bit of JFK.
Yeah, a little bit of Franz Ferdinand as well.
Franz Ferdinand.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Yeah. And by the way, this was lucky number 13 because there have been 12 prior attempts on his life.
Fuck.
Right. So we've got all this going on. Now enters Cardinal Richelieu.
Now, Mike, I don't know if that name rings a bell for you.
Not at all. Nothing about, giving the rack another turn.
I was going to say, I will never be able to think of Cardinal Richelieu as anything other than Michael Palin in a pink Cardinals outfit in Monty Python, lip-syncing to Don't Sleep on the Subway, Darling.
And of course, we also have to acknowledge, he is the villain of the Three Musketeers and D'Artagnan stories, right?
Right, yes. Played by Christopher Lee, I believe, in the Richard Lester movies.
So we know historically this Richelieu guy, pretty important. Yeah. So Louis XIII's paranoia was something that inspired a lot of reforms, and I understand why he'd be paranoid. Right? Your father was assassinated. Your mother kind of took over, and there was a conspiracy against you.
Yeah.
So, he was inspired to do a lot of reforms to varying degrees of success at the hands of a series of ministers, the most notable of whom was Cardinal Richelieu. Now, the Cardinal's influence is considered to be so great that it could be argued it may have been a situation similar to what we're seeing in our current White House, with the advisor in name given autocratic freedoms to manage a complex political system, despite the presence of someone in a seat of power who would normally and nominally be in charge. I'm just saying.
Not at all familiar. Nope.
Honestly, the world has me so fucking exhausted I can't even make a joke here.
Yeah, so together, or maybe more at the lead of Richelieu, if you subscribe to that theory about his power, which is not an uncommon theory, the reign of Louis XIII saw a crackdown on French nobility who had been in revolt, while eliminating remnants of France's more feudalistic history, specifically with the destruction of castles and dismantling of existing structures of private violence, including duels, bearing arms, and maintaining private armies. Right? This is kind of a hallmark of the feudalistic age, like the Dark Ages. You know what I mean? You have you have the figurehead, but you have all these local rulers who have their standing armies and everything like that. And Richelieu and Louis XIII kind of come no, fuck, we're not doing that anymore.
Right. You kind of just described the medieval version of they're coming to take our guns.
No, exactly. And then, I just love that private violence, including duels, right?
Private violence.
Right. So this would be considered the political theory of the royal monopoly of force. I should also note that for a time, Richelieu was an ally of Marie de Medici, but that had fallen apart due to so much courtly intrigue. So, he was playing both sides to be on top, right?
Yeah.
So, Richelieu sought to turn France into a strong, centralized state, especially as France was drawing into increasing conflict with the Habsburg dynasty within Spain and Austria, in addition to ensuring French dominance in the 30 Years' War.
There it is.
So now we have this major statesman at the side of the king who represents both the church and the state, a church and state that had conflicted with the Huguenot minority until that Edict of Nantes. Richelieu would then oversee the suppression of a series of Huguenot rebellions during his time in the court. Now, these rebellions spanned about a decade and were the result of Louis XIII reestablishing Catholic rights in the Huguenot region of Béarn through military annexation and limiting positions of government of the region to Catholics. Right? So there was territories like, no, this is like a Protestant area, but no, all of a sudden all the control will be exerted by Catholics.
Right.
So I am glossing over a lot here, but here's some key takeaways I want us to have in mind for what is ahead. So 1, there are internal regions of religious tension within France that bore the scars of rebellions and war fueled by faith. Right?
Right.
2, there is the existence of a monarch who has been increasingly autocratic over close to 40 years, fueled in part by paranoia and conspiracy.
Okay.
3, the issue of a cardinal who exerts a tremendous amount of influence over said monarch. 4, a country that has undergone conflict with the noble class over the removal of feudalistic and military traditions, in addition to being involved in decades of conflict with other regional powers.
Okay.
Also, there was a fucking recent outbreak of the fucking plague.
God damn it.
And we can't forget the good old witch trials, which are still happening here.
Oh, of course.
Woo!
So it's this cosmic gumbo of fucking course someone is going to get burned alive.
A lot of somebodies, I would think.
Why not everybody? Just burn everybody
Just
alive.
all of them.
I mean, in this story, only one person gets burned, so that's
a bit of a shock.
Yeah, no, that's what's wild about this story. So, all of this is background in which the lead character of our story of the Possessions of Loudun, Father Urbain Grandier, enters.
Now, again, I want all of our listeners to imagine, as David goes on, Matt Berry as this character going forward. Okay? just do that. I will, Father. You know, just that guy.
So Keith Urbain Grandier.
I hate you. Oh my God.
Oh, that's dirty. I like it. Our lead character in the Strange Witch Trial story is one Father Urbain Grandier, born in 1590 in Beaucaire, Maine, in the Kingdom of France. So France has its different regions, one of them which is named Maine, or however you say Maine in French.
Probably blah blah.
Maine.
Maine.
Maine. I don't know. Well, there goes our French listeners.
Yes.
Like we have any.
Look, if we had any French listeners, they already hated themselves anyway.
And
so.
us. So they're just hate listening.
You can leave, but leave the baguette. Anyway, so...
Leave un baguette.
As far as the clergy goes, he doesn't seem overly unique beyond his eventual fate, and, well, perhaps him being a bit of a horn dog.
I kind of figured that was most priests back then.
Yeah, well, we'll get into kind of the weird sexual politics of France around this time.
So was it still as, like, supposed to be as chaste as
celibate?
Yeah,
celibate then, like it is now, or
like,
were they more pragmatic about it? That priests got to have children too.
Well, I'll go ahead and spoil something ahead of time. He writes a treatise against priest celibacy.
Oh, okay. So,
yeah. So
whatever it was.
So he's supposed to be,
it.
but he didn't like it. He was not all down with the celibateness.
I must dip my quill into your inkwell.
It gets a lot weirder because of how people lived back then. It was pretty freaky, and we'll get into that when we get there.
Well, let's get to the freaky deaky.
Yeah. So
get your lube.
In his youth, he attended a Jesuit college in Bordeaux, thanks to his uncle's influence. This college was particularly influential and helped Grandier take on positions that allowed him to support his widowed mother and siblings. Though those positions granted to him caused a little resentment from a local candidate. So already he's pissing people off.
God damn it.
Right? Basically, it's the equivalent of the boss's nephew coming in and getting the position you applied for, right?
Or John Glover's character in Scrooged.
Which is, I always appreciate a good Scrooge reference.
And honestly, John Glover's a really good actor.
So anyway, by 1617, he would find himself appointed to Loudun, our central location. Now, we're going to paint a scene here.
Okay. Is it going to be a French, like watercolor? Or?
You know what? If you can put in some like French music in the background as I read the quote.
Oh, the shitty accordion squeeze box?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay.
If I can.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Incompetech would have something.
Oh, yes, I'll look.
Yes. Okay, anyway. I like how we also edit these episodes as we talk about them.
I also like the fact that I don't cut any of this out.
Yeah, no, It's great.
I am lazy.
Chaos magic. There we go.
Yep.
Now, quoting from Aldous Huxley's The Devils of Loudun. Now, Aldous Huxley is a name we should be familiar with, right?
You know what? Yes. I know he's an author. That's about it.
Brave New World.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
Soma, the pill that, that sort of thing, yeah.
Wait. He wrote the Captain America movie?
Yeah, Red Hulk and everything.
I am an ass. All right, let's move on.
All right, so, quote, Loudun, as its new parson rode slowly towards his destination, revealed itself a little city on a hill, dominated by two tall towers, the spire of St. Peter's and the medieval keep of the Great Castle. As a symbol, as a sociological hieroglyph, Loudun's skyline was somewhat out of date. That spire still threw out its Gothic shadow across town, but a good part of the townspeople were Huguenots who abhorred the church to which it belonged. That huge donjon, built by the Counts of Poitiers, was still a place of formidable strength, but Richelieu would soon be in power and the days of local autonomy and the provincial fortresses were numbered. All unknowing, the parson was riding into the last act of a sectarian war, into the prologue of a nationalist revolution. All right. So number one, Huxley's writing is fantastic.
That's very evocative.
Yeah, it's a wonderful book. So we're a few years before Richelieu comes into power here, and it begins the work of the royal monopoly of force in earnest. So we're kind of on the last gasp of the medieval period of France, and Huxley does a wonderful job continuing this scene here. So, quote, at the city gates a corpse or two hung, mouldering from the municipal gallows. Within the walls there were the usual dirty streets, the customary gamut of smells, from wood smoke to excrement, from geese to incense, from baking bread to horses, swine, and unwashed humanity.
The monks walking through the town, slamming plywood into their faces while chanting.
Bring out your dead. So, yeah,
Requiem.
So this sounds like a fucking medieval town.
It does. I mean, there's going to be the shit rakers in the street,
Raking the shit.
Yep.
Yeah. So, this is the kind of thing that this kind of, almost like a more modern man in a lot of ways. He's writing into this with a different kind of look at, religion that's going to rub people the wrong way and rub some people the right way, if you know what I mean. So,
okay.
Yes.
I want you to picture Matt Berry riding into town looking, that's disgusting. That's shit.
Oh God, that's so perfect, man. We need to write the script and get this movie made.
Send it to Matt Berry.
There is a fun movie based on this. I think it was done in 1977 called The Devils. I can't recall.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. It's one of that kind of nunsploitation genre slightly, but it's more artistic because it's like a Warner Brothers film, right?
Okay.
Yeah. The nunsploitation stuff I'm talking about. There's a little bit of an element to that.
Most of the nunsploitation films I've seen were made by Warner Brothers.
There we go.
Sorry.
But yeah, I've watched The Devils. It's a good one. It's of its time. I actually have it mentioned in there as a source because it was like getting a vibe check, right?
Right.
So during this period of time, Grandier proved to be somewhat popular among some of the people of Loudun, while drawing ire from the local monks. He was a handsome guy, young, and accelerated into influence within the church. Quoting again from Huxley, from the first, public sentiment in regards to the new parson was sharply divided. Most of the devouter sects approved of him. The late cure had been a doddering non-entity. His successor was a man in the prime of youth, tall, athletic, with an air of grave authority, even, according to one contemporary, of majesty. He had large dark eyes, and under his beretta, an abundance of crinkly black hair. His forehead was high, his nose aquiline, his lips red, full, and mobile. An elegant Van Dyke beard adorned his chin, and on his upper lip he wore a narrow mustache sedulously trained and pomaded so that its curling ends confronted one another. On either side of his nose, like a pair of coquettish question marks. Right?
So he had the curly mustache almost the what's his name? The artist.
Oh, Dolly?
Yeah, Dolly, like the really very curve, that point, they point inwards towards his nose.
Yeah.
That's a Dolly mustache and a Van Dyke.
No, absolutely.
It's fun.
Yeah, now I'm imagining him, he looks very, very goofy. But, I guess at the time it was the fashion.
Yeah,
The fashion.
Anyway, to continue the quote real quick, to post Faustian eyes, his portrait suggests a fleshier, not unamiable, and only slightly less intelligent Mephistopheles in clerical fancy dress.
I think you just described the show The Young Pope.
Man, that was a good show.
Was it? I didn't see it.
I watched a good portion of it. I need to finish it, actually, but I really enjoyed what I liked.
I just didn't want to get horny for a pope.
Right. That's always awkward.
How about the young ones popes?
Oh God. Rick Mayall.
All four of them as popes.
As the Pope.
Whoever has the hat at the time is the Pope.
Guys, I started selling indulgences.
Vivian, why are you selling indulgences? God, that makes me angry.
God.
So this is our main character. The women liked him. He was handsome, especially compared to the old guy that was previously in the position. Yeah. The monks aren't going to like that. The men aren't going to like that the woman likes the guy. So.
Right.
No.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So wonderful.
Women love him. Fish fear him.
Right.
It said that on his little skull cap.
Yes.
Yeah. So wonderful description here. Anyway, still quoting Huxley because again, I love the way that he's writing this stuff here. To this seductive appearance, Grandier added the social virtues of good manners and lively conversation. He could turn a compliment with easy grace, and the look with which he accompanied his words was more flattering. If the lady happened to be at all presentable, than the words themselves. The new parson, it was only too obvious, took an interest in his female parishioners that was more than merely pastoral.
His flashy and seductive eyes seemed to ask, "Can I put my dirty stick in your mud hole?"
So
sorry, I was like, what would be the worst thing to put?
And that is absolutely terrible, and I'm so glad you added that.
Thank you.
So what we have here is we have this very medieval town. A lot of shit's going to be piling up. You've got this idea. You've got this guy coming in who is better looking than most. He's naturally flirty. He's got the riz, right?
Right.
And he's going to make a series of increasingly poor decisions and piss off more and more and more people until there is a conspiracy placed against him.
Oh man, this if this were the first episode of the series with Matt Berry, it would be called "Sexy Boy Comes to Town."
So with that being said, like this has been a little bit of an exhaustive speed run. So why don't we take a brief break? What do you guys think?
I think it is time for cheese.
Kevin needs his cheese.
We'll be right back.
All right.
Podcast Brie.
Hi everyone, this is Kevin from Supernatural Selection. Are you an independent creator? Do you have a webcomic or an Etsy store? Do you 3D print things? Or are you just looking to get some word out for your Discordian cabal with social terrorism? Well, we'd love to help. And David, I believe you've got some details about how we can help.
Why, certainly. If you go to supernaturalselectionpod.com/contact, that is supernaturalselectionpod.com/contact, you can learn how to advertise with us.
That's right. I believe the rate is $2 per episode. You can't beat that with a stick.
I mean, trust me, we've tried.
Yeah, that's cheap. That's literally cheaper than dirt.
Mm-hmm. And best of all, if you're not sure how to write an ad, we'll do it for you. We'll even record it.
Absolutely. Just let us know what you need in the ad, and we'll be happy to do that for you.
And again, that URL is supernaturalselectionpod.com/contact.
And now, back to the show. Oh, oui, oui. J'en ai pas French.
Jesus Christ. Okay. Welcome back, everybody.
Oh, Christ.
It's just you and I just enabling each other, and then sometimes Mike will enable us further.
And Mike will just, drive the spike in to hammer it into place.
So, yeah, what if we were to do a show where I just, yell at you two about history for 2 hours at a time? What do we think?
Again, but I digress. Coming soon from Supernat Prod. I think it'd be fun. I feel like we could branch out into other shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was pitching that idea months ago. Anyway,
yeah, fuck off.
No, I was almost a history major. That's the thing.
Yeah,
I went for my English degree, but I could have been I could have been a contender.
I would have loved to have been a history major, but instead I was cursed with these art talents.
So let's go ahead and continue. Let's talk about the sexuality in 1600s France, shall we?
Yeah.
All right. Do we need to queue up that video again?
I'd rather not, but just you are free to imagine it if you would like, everybody. You can do that.
All right. So around 1630, we see the first signs of Grandier being a bit of a fuckboy.
Wee wee.
Yes, he has one. It is a wee wee.
Specifically, Philippa Tricant, daughter of Louis Tricant, an advisor to Louis XIII and Grandier's friend in London, gave birth to a son.
Now, for clarity's sake, on the Lord Byron scale, is he a fuck boy or a fuck man?
You know,
is he a fuckman?
I think he was. I don't think he was quite at fuck man. I think he was fuck teen.
Maybe he was a fuck journeyman.
Fuck, apprentice.
Yeah. I mean, he was working on his fuck degree.
He is a fuck squire.
Yes.
Okay.
He's not quite the fucksmith yet.
he wasn't quite a cocksmith, but he was cocksure. Anyway.
Yes.
I think Kevin was getting at what age do you think he was around this time?
David?
Do we have any idea of his age?
So if it was 1630, he would have been probably in his early 40s at this point.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. No, he is a fuckman.
Yeah, because he was born in 89.
Oh,
I'm trying to remember.
Now I've got in my head, I am a fuckman for the county.
So he's quite the storied fuckman by this point.
Indeed.
Yes. Well,
he
doesn't have. I don't think he quite has the body count. I hate putting that terms of Byron. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, of course not.
Yeah. No, that's hard.
But that is astute, to kind of connect to Lord Byron here, because there are a lot of parallels.
Oh yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's widely suspected that Philippa Tricant's son was Grandier's kid. Especially as he already had established a reputation among women. Of course, there's rumors and that sort of thing. But here we have an actual child that is born.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of many examples of the way Grandier essentially signed his own death warrant.
Shit.
Right? So what we're going to see from like 1617 to about 1632 is a man whose arrogance leads to his downfall during this period of already mass hysteria, right?
Yeah, bad time to be a fucksman.
Right. Now, Grandier's own perspective on sex was slightly more permissive than what you would expect for the time, but you would also be surprised to learn that while not quite libertine, the noble class of France to which Grandier was adjacent to having because he had attended that Jesuit boarding school, right? It kind of puts him up there, not quite with the nobility, but kind of near them. Mm-hmm. They were kind of horny in general.
Well, yeah, they're the elite, so they get to fuck where all the people, have to, consummate marriages and, fuck only one person for all their lives.
Yeah, you end up seeing a whole lot. We'll get into that. Architecture plays a big role in all of this. But, then again, they are French. C'est ainsi pour les Français. So,
okay, what does that mean in English? In the butt for France?
I would ask people to translate it, but I know my pronunciation is horrible, but it was something along the lines of such as the life of the French. Or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. I had that wrong then.
Right. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out which word in there you attributed to butt.
I see. I was like, that's close to anus.
Yeah, just close enough. Anyway, Jean-Jacques Bouchard. Bouchard. There we go. It's not Bouchard. Excuse me 1 minute. Zelda wanted to weigh in.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you, Zelda.
Yeah. So Jean-Jacques Bouchard, a younger contemporary of Grandier, would write his own autobiography about this, which goes to show the complexity of social life and sexual experiences in France at this time. Now, Huxley brings this up specifically. So this isn't me going off the rails, right? This is something that Huxley brings up.
Awesome.
Okay. Quote from Huxley, "The world revealed by confessions is very like the world revealed to us by modern sexologists. But now Huxley was writing this in like 1950s, right?
Okay, all right, because I was going to say, I don't know that I could get a degree in sexology.
Right, but you sure can try.
Damn straight.
You might chafe a little bit, but anyway.
Yeah.
But, if anything, a little more so. We see the small fry indulging in sexual play, indulging in it freely and frequently, for there seems to be singularly little adult interference with their activities. Everybody's too busy working the fields, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? So, at school, under the good fathers, there are no strenuous games, and the boys' superfluous energy can find no vent except in incessant masturbation and the practice on half-holidays of homosexuality. Pep talks and pulpit eloquence, confession, and devotional exercises are to some slight extent restraining influences. Now, Bouchard records that at least 4 great feasts of the church he would refrain from his customary sexual practices for as long as 8 or 10 days at a stretch.
Oh, for a teen, that's quite a lot.
Yeah.
Right? But, try as he might, he never succeeded in prolonging these interims of chastity to a full fortnight.
That entire place just looked like a fucking glazed donut.
Just
right.
Every garment sticking straight upright and, starched.
You take your robes off, stand them in the corner, and it looks like a fucking Dalek.
Yeah.
And remember, this isn't about Grandier, but this is someone who
contemporary.
Grew up in that same sort of
right.
What would be fairly, common for someone of that age and that station.
Yeah, especially with the way boys were educated and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
boys will be boys. They'll just whack off whenever they want.
Fuck anything. Yeah.
They'll play ookie cookie.
Ookie baguette. Sorry.
Oh God, that's a new T-shirt.
Ookie baguette. God.
Now, one thing that I picked up on here, a lot of this evokes stories about British boarding schools from the 19th and mid-20th centuries, actually. A lot of boarding schools in history have been seen to have instances of, let's call it experimentation and abuse. a lot of which likely occurs to such institutions creating power structures that enable such behaviors. But that's a topic for an unrelated show.
Now, this begs a question. Would the right wing be less homophobic if this was still going on, or would it be worse?
There'd be a lot of internalized, self-hate for,
Self-flagellation?
yeah, for the gayness of their youth.
Right.
So they would just be mad at themselves. Like,
I feel like there wouldn't really be a difference.
Yeah. Well,
Specifically because, like, every time there's, like, a CPAC, there's those stories about, like, Grindr.
Oh, yeah,
right,
all the...
Like,
yeah.
exploding,
Well, yeah, there's
right?
just so much, not subdued,
Repressed.
repressed. There you go. Kept saying, want to say subjugated. I'm like, no, that's not the right word.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
repressed.
it is if you're into BDSM.
Oh yeah, homosexuality.
So
Yeah, and like, again, I'm not judging any of this.
No,
Let
no,
people
no.
fuck who they want to fuck, but also...
Well,
it's
I'm judging anybody that
does
does
that and
the
then,
two-face thing. They're
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
saying, oh, homosexuality bad, yet they're on Grindr, wanting to just suck dick.
Yeah. Now, before we move on, I got one last question. In Harry Potter, do you think the Dursleys were fucking other boys at that private school?
Look at Hogwarts.
Not Hogwarts.
Oh.
I'm talking about his cousin.
Oh,
Are you talking about
and
the
his
Weasleys?
uncle. No,
no, Dursley. Yeah,
his uncle.
Yeah,
Harry's uncle.
his cousin, and
Oh.
Yeah, because the ones he was staying with at the beginning of the first book.
Oh, yeah.
They
I'm
were
sorry. 'Cause
sending him off.
I didn't think about Vernon being in a boarding school, but yeah, he would have been in a boarding school.
Oh yeah, they were just fucking sucking and fucking all over that place, and then they come home and mistreat Harry. So,
I mean, it's basically what we're getting at here is that, like, as much as like the church tried to keep things like celibate and proper and everything,
It
like
didn't
that,
happen.
That wasn't going on.
you can't put a lid on teenage boys. I'm sorry, you can't.
Yeah.
and fuck you, J.K. Rowling.
Oh yeah, that
And
too.
yeah, absolutely. A big fuck you to J.K. Rowling. Now that's just Bouchard in boarding school, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's a horny teenager outside of boarding school as well.
Oh, of
All
course.
right.
So he would describe other situations in his autobiography, such as experimenting with menstrual blood sourced from his family's chambermaid,
Oh,
What the fuck?
as there were rudimentary theories about alchemical properties associated with menstrual blood.
Are we getting into Crowley early or something?
I mean that was the thing. Like there's always been kind of an element associated with menstrual blood and regarding like spellcasting and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
and,
that's true.
Again, like you've got these people who live in this just getting out of the medieval period, right?
yeah.
True.
And he's rich. He's got a dedicated chambermaid, right? And that becomes a problem because he confesses to instances of rape
Oh boy.
and soliciting peasants for sex.
If he's paying the peasants,
Yeah,
and they're
I mean,
agreeing
well,
to
depend-
it.
Well, you can also
If-
be, some coercion there.
Oh yeah, that's true.
He could be owning the land that the peasants are working
yeah,
on.
some
that's
the
fair.
power dynamic there.
I will throw you off of
Gross.
the land unless you come over here and bend over.
Jesus Christ.
Sorry.
So surprising no one, his writing here was not widely printed, and, quote, 19th century scholars could publish it only for private circulation and with emphatic comments on the author's unspeakable depravity.
Is that like a masturbatory aid?
Again, like, they're trying to, like, learn something from this, but it's also like, oh, this is kind of
Fucked up.
Good God, their kink is kink shaming.
right? Now, I bring all of this up because what Aldous Huxley, again, this is Aldous Huxley introducing this. This isn't me being a freak show here.
No, I understand.
So what he's doing here is establishing that while the church bristled at sexuality in principle, people within all classes of society were fucking, even the clergy.
Right.
This is the world in which Grandier was raised, and though we don't know much about his experiences growing up in this regard, there is a parallel Huxley is drawing between Bouchard and Grandier.
Yeah.
Now, even Louis XIII would have an understanding that people were not practicing what the church was advising, as he was raised alongside his father's bastards, between about 3 or 4 different wives, and probably a few mistresses.
Yeah.
Now, beyond that, Louis XIII would have seen his fair share of, we'll call it, raw humanity, from relieving oneself to intercourse, because as a child he was often taken into the beds of waiting women, be they nude or clothed, or with other women, or without, or with their husbands.
Yikes.
Because, they have to keep an eye on the kid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but yikes.
Right? Further, this is before the large-scale invention of hallways. Because we don't get our first, real hallway in architecture until, the 1580s.
Oh, God.
But they don't have this in the royal palace.
Just a bunch of interconnected rooms.
Exactly. So to go from one end of the palace to the other, you have to go through a bunch of rooms, right?
Yeah.
So, to move around the palace, you would go from room to interconnected room. So who knew what the future king witnessed, right?
You open the door, people just going at it. You're like, oh, God, just not again. Just cover your eyes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this all affected him in no way whatsoever, and he grew up to be a well-behaved, well-balanced adult. The end.
Well,
We'll see.
Yeah. I'm full of shit.
let's see how that works out for him, Cotton.
That dog won't hunt, Monsignor.
Now, as written by Huxley, quote, less fortunate in this respect than his or her inferiors, a royal personage was never permitted to be alone. If one's blood were blue, one was born in a crowd, one died in a crowd, one even relieved nature in a crowd, and on occasion one had to make love in a crowd. And this isn't an orgy, right?
No, it's I've seen plenty of stories of kings when they get married, the consummation of their marriage is witnessed. Yep. And lots of times they're rotating nobles out to watch them until they bear an heir, make sure that they're fucking right. Mm-hmm. Because that's
I'm not just pinning this on France either, right?
Oh yeah,
this is all over the place.
This is royalty everywhere.
Yeah, and the character of this circumambient architecture, all the rooms, right?
Yeah,
was such that one could scarcely avoid the spectacle of others being born, dying, relieving nature, or making love.
I would like to fuck. Fetch the notary.
Bear witness to my lusts.
Shall I cup your balls, sire?
Where do you put this fucking stamp?
On one ass cheek.
Oh my God, it's a branding thing, and then you have to initial it and date it.
Yeah, 3 people have to sign next to it.
Oh God,
a wax seal.
Unfortunately, my ass is full of scars. You're going to have to sign my ball sack.
So this is the world in which Grandier was born and raised, and may have had some influence on one of his numerous controversies. Grandier pushed back against the concept of ecclesiastical celibacy.
You know what? I'm going to give him credit for that, at least.
Yeah.
And so also something I'm reminded of, with all those facts, is that, even, your common people weren't immune from it because they frequently lived in just one room.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And,
they slept in, one bed. So, kids probably were sleeping in bed, the same beds that, the grown-ups were, having sex in.
I'm just
God,
picturing...
Could you imagine your parents rolling over on top of you?
Here's the thing. I'm just picturing, 2 filthy, shit-covered peasants going at it in the night and, 7 children laying there with 1,000-yard stares.
They're not shit-covered, but everything else, yes, is totally fucked up.
To our modern eyes. The Monty Python version, they would be shit-covered.
Well, yes.
Sometimes they had a curtain.
Yeah.
The wife comes in. Bring out your head. Sorry.
But yeah, no, there was definitely a lot less privacy than what we're used to.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Not even a little bit less, just the complete absence of privacy.
Yeah.
Right. So, in his own words, Grandier writes, "The priest does not embrace celibacy for the love of celibacy, but solely that he may be admitted to holy orders. His vow does not proceed from his will, but is imposed upon him by the church, which compels him, willy-nilly, to accept this hand condition, without which he may not practice this sacerdotal profession. I just love the fact that willy-nilly is.
I was gonna say I'm giving the guy crap. Like, I don't believe there should be ecclesiastical celibacy, and also he said willy-nilly.
Well, yeah, South Park did an incredible episode about that.
Well, the celibacy makes no damn sense either, because nowhere in the Bible is anyone fucking celibate.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah,
I mean, everybody was understood to fuck.
Yeah, like be fruitful, multiply.
Yeah. Hey, even the priests.
They don't even talk about it much, but Jesus fucked.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, and in the modern parlance, Jesus fucked.
Oh yeah, he fucked.
So yeah, that's just more of I think that's a control thing by the church.
It is.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's a you shall not fuck.
This is
cults do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Catholic Church is a cult. Just saying. Anyway,
yes. Oh yeah, totally.
So
most successful cult ever.
Right. So Grandier was not above being able to celebrate what we might refer to as a well-rounded life for a holy man for the time.
That's terrible.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to kind of look at the increasingly poor decisions of Urbain Grandier here.
Yeah.
How are we feeling so far?
I feel like I need a shower and I want to call my resume a CV all of a sudden.
Kevin getting very anti-French in here.
I am like and the thing is, my ancestors are from England, so like I feel like I'm making a connection to my heritage.
I think you're genetically predisposed to hate the French.
Hey man, you remember what I told you about that dude at Disney World, the Frenchman?
Yeah.
Like, oh, what's that? Do you know what is a marzipan? No. Do you know what is an almond? It's like, yeah, fuck you, buddy.
Exasperated Frenchman. Probably the only time Kevin that's ever have you ever any other time interacted with a actual French person?
Yeah, I've had the thing is, it's been 50-50.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've known a couple of good Frenchmen, known a couple of shits.
Almost like that applies to everyone.
Well, I like to believe that it's in France. It's mostly
because
the shits.
you are predisposed to hate the French. I guess
because I'm British. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm descended from Scotsmen, Kevin, so I hate you.
Well, I knew that.
So, and I'm German, so apparently that's that's a problem.
Oh, I got German in me too. So I have both sides of the conflict. And Native American. I'm just fucked.
So, there hasn't been a whole lot of supernatural stuff here in a show called Supernatural Selection.
Well, it's getting there.
But the lead up to this is interesting. So, it's been a long way to go for a possessed nun angle.
It's been a long road. Sorry.
You're possessing those fucking nuns. Anyway, there are a lot of important things about Grandier's life that factor into these events. It's like, it's this rich tapestry of fucking up.
Yes.
So, what we have with Grandier, prior to the main events that would end in his downfall, was that he was a handsome and charismatic priest who seemed to take on positions that were sometimes contradictory with prevailing Catholic control of the region. He seemed to be popular with women, and local men seemed to be jealous.
Right.
All right. So, the other thing is, he was also a damn good orator, and seemed to be a good priest with just a touch of scandal that made for great gossip. This guy did his job and fucked around a bit or a lot, but as we covered only a few minutes ago, a lot of people were doing the same thing.
Now, you said he is a good orator.
Mm-hmm.
So, quick question. Grandier versus Heinrich Kramer in a no-holds-barred debate. Who wins?
Oh, Grandier, absolutely.
Yeah? You don't think Kramer could, levy his reputation into getting this motherfucker set on fire?
He was so bad at his job.
Oh, that's true.
He got kicked out of the fucking trial that he was running.
I didn't think of that. That's true.
No, nobody liked Kramer.
Yeah, at least the women liked Grandier.
Yeah. But even some people of the court liked him and everything like that. But
Sure.
Again, like this guy's gonna make a lot of enemies. But no, absolutely, Grandier would have like stomped Kramer.
That's good to know, actually.
They should do an epic rap battles of history.
Oh my god! And get Matt Berry.
There you go.
Sorry.
Oh man,
I can't get
off.
We're
so smart, you guys. We are so fucking smart.
We should rule the world. No, that's too far.
But these things can spiral out of control, especially as the world outside of Loudun keeps spinning and national developments begin to exert their influence. It also doesn't help that Grandier turns out to be a bit of an egotistical dick, and this is going to bite him in the ass in the worst way possible.
Okay.
Now, quoting Huxley again, this guy's book is so foundational to what I'm doing here. Quoting Huxley regarding Grandier and his experience with the locals, quote, "Almost from the first moment of his arrival at Loudun, Grandier was involved in a series of unseemly, but, so far as he was concerned, thoroughly enjoyable quarrels. One gentleman actually drew his sword against the parson.
Damn.
With another, the lieutenant criminel, who headed the local police force, he indulged in a public slanging match, which soon degenerated into physical violence.
So, actual epic rap battle of history in history.
Outnumbered, the parson and his acolytes had to barricade themselves inside the chapel of the castle.
Fuck!
Next day, Grandier complained to the ecclesiastical court that the lieutenant criminel was duly reprimanded for his part in the scandalous affair. For the curé, it was a triumph, but at a price. An influential man who had merely felt an unreasoned dislike for him was now his mortal and inveterate enemy, on the watch for any opportunity to be revenged."
Now, are we going to discuss the fact that the head of the police was fucking named Criminal?
I think it's a title.
Yeah.
Oh, bite me.
Yeah.
No, but still, that's a funny. That'd be great. It'd be like private, public, and general specific.
Yeah, actually, I knew a guy. Well, I didn't know a guy. There was a guy that went to my junior high school whose actual name was Lieutenant Gnarls, and he did join the military, and it caused a lot of problems.
Because he probably started off as like Corporal Lieutenant.
Yeah, fucking Private Lieutenant Gnarls.
Yeah, private.
Anyway.
But yeah, so like one dude tries to threaten him with a sword. He gets into a verbal fight with the fucking sheriff, and he has to fucking barricade himself inside the church and makes like a mortal enemy here.
God's protecting me. Sorry.
So, as we covered with Heinrich Kramer and the witch trial process in the Malleus Maleficarum, grudges and vendettas would be a going concern when it came to accusations of Malleus. Ideally, these things were to be ignored or filtered out when investigations occur, but when you've pissed off half the population of a city, you're already kind of facing off against a stacked deck.
Yeah.
Now,
Yep.
yeah, like, because again, like, the whole thing was like, no, you have to minimize, like, no arch enemies here. But if your arch enemy is the fucking law enforcement, right?
Yeah.
And that's
cop.
he makes powerful enemies.
You done made a powerful enemy, son.
Cock shotgun. But, Grandier also did no favors with his reputation among the local monks either. One thing about the monks is they tend to have sects, S-E-C-T-S.
Sects.
Yeah,
yes.
We're not going. Yeah, we've moved on from the other.
We're not retreading that territory yet. So they would have these sects and orders. For example, when we discussed the life of Heinrich Kramer, there was a division in the form of the Franciscans and the Dominicans, right?
Right.
Or like Franciscan monks.
Yeah, and Dominican monks.
Interesting.
Now, it doesn't stop there. Since the 13th century, we've seen several divisions and specializations of the monks. It's like different monk talent trees, I suppose. Such as the emergence of other schools of thought, such as the Sorbonne, the Jesuits, the Carmelites, and the Capuchins.
Now, here's a fun fact. We have a Carmelite monastery in Jackson. It's actually in my old neighborhood, and it's been there for over 100 years, and it is still there now. It will be there for a long time. They keep importing nuns.
That's super interesting.
Yeah, from Vietnam and Korea.
Yeah, which is very funny to think about. But yeah, a lot of the big growth of like Christian religion has been in Asia.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah, so we got
unrelated. Let us return.
Yes.
So Grandier often took exception to orders that were not, like where Jesuits were poking their noses into his overseeing of Loudun. In fact, quote, one of the new parson's first acts was to announce from the pulpit that the faithful were under no obligation to make confession or under an obligation to make confession to their parish priest, not to any outsider.
So just him, basically.
Yeah, just anyone who was within his specific, church. So Grandier wasn't quite done in building a list of future accusers during this time either.
Oh, God.
Beyond pissing off monastic orders outside of Loudun, he also butted heads with those within, including a head of state. Quote, to these petty enemies, Grandier soon added another capable of doing him immeasurably greater harm. Early in 1618, at a religious convention attended by all the ecclesiastical dignitaries of the neighborhood, Grandier went out of his way to offend the prior of Coucy by rudely claiming precedence over him in a solemn procession through the streets of Loudun. Technically, the parson's position was unassailable. In a procession originating in his own church, a canon of Saint Gros, Saint Gros, yeah, it's French, who cares? A canon of this church had a right to walk in front of the prior of Coucy, and this right held good even when, as here was the case, the prior was at the same time a bishop. But there is this thing known as courtesy, right?
Right.
And there's also such a thing as circumspection. The prior of Coucy and the bishop of Loudun, and a bishop was a man by the name of Armand Jean du Plessis de Richelieu.
God damn it.
Right. And this is before he becomes like an advisor to Louis XIII.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But he's a high up, person in the church. And technically, Grandier is right. He's technically correct.
The best kind of correct.
Exactly. Grandier is just being a dick here. And he picked the absolute worst person to be a dick to at this time. It's just this, like...
Yeah.
Of course he could take up the front of this procession, but there's an element of pettiness that absolutely fucks him in the long run.
Seriously, though, you don't piss off an architect of the modern fucking world.
And you're not wrong about, like, architect of the modern world. And you'll talk about that, I think, as we get to the end of the episode.
Yeah, it'll get brought up again.
Yeah. So, the timeline here. Just so we're aware. Grandier rides into town in 1617. By 1618, he has personally offended the future cardinal and the most powerful man in France outside of the king himself. At this point, Richelieu is out of favor with the court owing to the machinations of Marie de' Medici and an Italian conspirator, but we know this does not last. So, for now, let's go ahead and we'll take our final break.
All right, we'll be right back.
Break. Hey man, what's got you off in your phone there?
Oh, just going through all the funny Mothman memes and supernatural shit posts I've been wanting to share. I just don't know where to put the posts yet.
Don't you know about the Supernatural Selection Discord?
We have a Discord?
Yeah, for years, dude. Where have you been?
Can people chat with the hosts and get previews of upcoming episodes and generally post funny shit as much as they want with other listeners?
I mean, if that's your bag. I mean, personally, I wouldn't do that, but there are even live streaming events for the shows there, too. You've been in a few. How do you not know this stuff?
It must have been my doppelganger. How do I get into the Discord?
It's easy. Just visit discord.supernaturalselectionpod.com. Now say that 3 times fast.
Well, that's perfect. Now I can share 3 terabytes of Hollow Earth memes. Get it? Terabytes.
Never mind. Forget I said anything. Just don't do that. You should definitely not visit discord.supernaturalselectionpod.com to join the Discord. We don't want you there.
Too late. I'm already posting my alien abduction fan fiction with the general chat.
Join the hosts and listeners of Supernatural Selection on the official Discord. Just visit discord.supernaturalselectionpod.com.
So one thing, if you look at the scripts, you actually get to see my headers for each section. Mm-hmm. This section is the increasingly poor decisions of Urbain Grandier. The journeys continue.
Oh, we're back, by the way.
Yes. Hi, we're back. So we do have a few more things to cover to set the stage. To get to this point from Urbain Grandier to this monastery of nuns that seemingly gets possessed.
Is this going to be hot?
I mean, do you like hunchbacks?
Not in particular.
So probably not. I think history has made it a little kinkier than it actually is.
I feel like a lot of movies I've seen have made it kinkier than it actually
No, exactly. Is. A lot of really good 70s cinema.
Hey.
Now, we already know of Philippa Tricant, the young girl Grandier had seduced. Her father was an advisor to the king. We also have Cardinal Richelieu involved here. We also have what appears to be every man in Loudun fairly pissed off with Grandier, but more enemies emerge in the wake of his poor decisions.
You know, right now he reminds me of Speedy Gonzales. Because you remember the cartoon where it's like, Speedy Gonzales is dating my sister, and the other one goes, Speedy Gonzales is dating everybody's sister.
I fucking love those cartoons, man.
Same here.
Now, following the seduction of Philippa and the backlash to his serial seductions that were suggested, maybe even witnessed, Grandier would also seduce one Madeleine de Brou, or Brou, Madeleine.
What's up, de Brou?
It's French, God, whatever.
No, I know.
Who was the daughter of the king's counselor within Loudun.
Oh, no.
Now, they would secretly marry, and it's around this time that he writes his treatise against clerical celibacy.
I should be able to funk by Grandier.
Now, Madeleine was said to be a very pious woman who had turned away many marriage proposals. She was also the daughter to a wealthy man named René de Brou.
Okay.
Now, this was a problem because in marrying Madeleine, Grandier now pisses off Pierre Menal, again involved with Louis XIII's court, who had been vying for Madeleine's hand.
You know, this is a lot like that guy at work that, like, a lot of... not that we know specifically, but, like, there'll be a guy at work that, like, a bunch of the customers love, but, like, every motherfucker at the store hates. Mm-hmm. I've had that situation. I've been that situation.
Right. So, numerous complaints begin to be fielded to one... Okay, and I'm going to try my best to read this.
Good luck.
Bishop Henry Louis Chastanier de la Rocheposay.
Good enough. Actually, that was pretty good, David. Not gonna lie.
Okay. Now, at this point, a literal conspiracy had formed to seek the punishment and removal of Grandier from his authority in Loudun.
Good God.
Among accusations lobbied at Grandier to the bishop were, and this is from Occult World, quote, he was debauching married women and young girls in his precinct, was profane and impious, and did not read his breviary, among other crimes. Which I think breviary is just like your biblical text or whatever, right?
Right.
Yeah. So now we have the bishop who already hated Grandier. We have Richelieu, right? As a result, Grandier was set to be arrested and imprisoned. However, the case was adjourned and Grandier was permitted to clear his name. Unsurprisingly, this does not go well for him. Townspeople began to speak out and accusations came flying, with accusations that he had even had sex with local women on the floors of the church.
He even got lucky in a Burger King bathroom. Sorry, the first thing popped into my head was Humpty.
Now, Grandier, seeing that the tide was turning against him here, would voluntarily appear before the bishop instead of enduring a public arrest. He would then be thrown in jail on November 15th, 1629.
Is this church police?
I don't know. Like, does the Vatican have, like, obviously it wasn't in the Vatican, but like, does like a big old church have a jail?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it could back then.
I mean, there was a sheriff, so
it's a fortified structure, basically.
Yeah, but you also had a sheriff, so I'm assuming they probably had something to lock in people who have too much sex, I guess.
Oh, God, the sheriff of Jesustown.
Right. So we're going to leave Grandier here to discuss two other elements that we need to know before we're introduced to one very, very troubled nun in the next episode.
I swear to God, I saw that movie on USA Up All Night.
I'm sorry, it's USA Up All Night.
Or USA Up All Night.
Never gets old, man. Never gets old.
Yeah, depends on which night you're watching.
Right. So you would think that, like, the plague was a seemingly unrelated factor in the coming hysteria, but as we've seen, a lot of things seem to be piling up here, right? There's just this overarching tension.
Yeah.
Now, the plague at this point had been a going concern for centuries and enough to rattle any community. As with any disease, aside from big breakouts, the plague would linger and periodically wipe out towns and villages. Quarantines would occur, but periodically the plague would break loose.
Yeah, no idea what that's like in modern times.
Right. So the first major plague was what we commonly refer to as the Black Death. You know, the big one in the 1400s that wiped out a large portion of Europe.
Yes. But what of the dancing plague, David?
Well, we happen to have an episode about that very, very interesting mass hysteria, actually.
That's right. You can go back and listen to that one.
The boogie fever of the 70s. Yes, exactly. Quite a time.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it was like the 1470s, yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, the second wave of the Great Plague would erupt in Europe around the late 1620s.
God damn it.
It had a profound effect on Italy, especially, but it tore through Europe, and it did hit Loudun. Now, I'm not going to spend much time on this, as we've covered the plague to a degree when we discussed the life of Nostradamus.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, which was a very fun two-parter that I still think is one of my best episodes. Anyway.
It was very good, yes.
With that said, I do not think it's a stretch to suggest that the eruption of a plague in France, particularly in an already tense Loudun, exacerbated what we have seen as an already intense climate, especially as religious crackdowns continued and we get a bunch of nuns who start playing pranks.
That's never a good sign.
Right. So, the other thing I want to talk about here, I want to bring it back to Cardinal Richelieu, briefly,
okay,
to emphasize one of the central tensions within this story. Both Richelieu and Grandier represented ego and pushing back against hierarchy as it had been known for centuries, right? In different ways.
Right, yeah. One politically, the other one sexy time.
Right. Again, Richelieu would have a tremendous influence on Louis XIII, and together they would rapidly move France into a far less feudal place, centralizing authority around the monarch and reducing the influence of local leaders. I think it goes without saying that without this, history would play out very differently, and the people would begin to push back against centralized authority. Right? You don't have the American Revolution, you don't have the French Revolution without what Richelieu is doing in France at this time with Louis XIII.
Yeah.
Because you have to have that central villain for the revolution to occur.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Grandier was a scumbag, yes. But his self-serving views on his position as a priest within the Catholic Church were perhaps a tangent from the work that Martin Luther had done to reshape the relationship between the masses and the Catholic Church. Again, like that, we understand that that priestly celibacy thing that he wrote a treatise against. It's self-serving, absolutely.
It is.
But in another sense, it is also kind of reducing the distance between the church and the people. Because you are, because if you are forced to be celibate, you are kind of putting yourself above the people. But if you are able to marry, if you are able to have children, well, you're not too different from the people that you preach to.
Yeah, it's a certain amount of like the whole denial of self.
Yeah, and it's healthier to a degree.
Anakin was all about that.
Yeah, like a married priest with kids. Like, no, I mean that makes sense. Again, that's what the Bible's about, right? Be fruitful, multiply.
That is a good point. Is this the story of Grandier, or is this the story of Anakin Skywalker?
Yes.
Right. So, no, again, there's a lot of it. Yeah, you wouldn't have had Star Wars without Richelieu and Grandier.
Right.
So Grandier's actions and dalliances affected the perceived authority of the church also, especially given the existing tensions within the Protestants of that region. Because, again, why did the Protestants split off from the church? Anyone, Bueller, what do you remember of your history? What was one of the chief complaints with?
Selling of indulgences.
There was another one.
Basically, get out. Oh, was there? I don't remember. I just remember the get out of hell free cards.
Yeah, so the indulgences, obviously, that's a big deal. The other thing is, Bibles were written in Latin. And
right.
The people who could read Latin were
the priests.
Yeah, so now it's like, no, for the Bible to be in English, for the person, for the people in the church to be closer to God, they should be able to read the Word of God themselves.
Right. It's basically like, well, if you do that, what's the point of a priest?
Exactly. So that's where a lot of that tension comes from. So, as one man would work to consolidate power within an authority, Grandier would unintentionally weaken the church just as the state was beginning to assert itself further. Because even though Richelieu was part of the church, he was also equally part of the state.
Mm-hmm.
And that changes the balance of power quite a bit. Now, one of Richelieu's aims for Loudun was to remove the feudalistic walls that surrounded the city. And it makes sense as to why, as it was a defensible position that might grant the leader of the city some sense of separation from the authority of the king. And debate within Loudun raged on whether or not to keep the walls.
You know, I actually just read a part of one of the Stormlight books. It's kind of about this.
Now, surprising nobody at this point, Grandier had sided with those who wished to retain the walls.
Oh, you fucker.
And, like, again, he's being a man of the people here, right? But I am sure to Richelieu this was exactly the sort of thing that the reforms he championed through King Louis XIII had been meant to curb. A local authority that stood against the centralized authority that was rapidly sweeping through 17th century France. So we see that Richelieu is already pissed off because of the whole walking in front of him thing, right?
Right.
But now we have Grandier just like kind of getting in the way of Richelieu's big project.
Yeah, first it was personal, now it's political.
It might also be a little bit more personal.
Yeah, sure, but I mean, you know, now he's getting in the way of the plan.
Right, no. It definitely, I think it's more of a plan thing, but it's like, you know, this fucker's getting in my way and I kind of hate him already, so... But there's also another thing I want to address that also makes it a little bit more of a personal issue for Richelieu. So, something often associated with Grandier's piss-poor decisions that I find hard to verify, but is often considered an element of his eventual downfall, is him embarrassing Richelieu in another way.
Oh boy.
Now, the best source that I can find on this, because all these other sources mention it, but don't really explain it. But I have something written by Alexandre Dumas in his book Urbain Grandier, Celebrated Crimes in 1634.
You know you're a historically significant fuck-up when Dumas writes a fucking book about you. The author of The Three Musketeers was like, I gotta record this.
And 2 years after your death.
Jesus Christ.
Right? So... Dumas writes about a maiden by the name of Hammond in the service of the Queen Mother Marie de Medici, who had Grandier as her confessor in Loudun, supposedly. So she probably traveled to Loudun, stopped by the church, confessed to Grandier, right? Because that's his duty, right? So quoting here from Dumas, it so happened at a time when he and the other ministers were in a more momentary disgrace that a satire full of biting wit and raillery appeared, directed especially against the Cardinal Richelieu. And this satire had been attributed to Hammond, who was known to share, as was natural, her mistress's hatred of Richelieu. Protected as she was by the Queen's favor, the Cardinal had found it impossible to punish Hammond, but he still cherished the deep resentment against her. Continuing further, it now occurred to the conspirators to accuse Grandier of being the real author of the satire, and it was asserted that he had learned from Hammond all of the details of the Cardinal's private life, the knowledge of which gave so much point to the attack on him. If they could succeed in making Richelieu believe this, Grandier was lost.
So framed, basically.
Yes. So you have this element here where he's already got this kind of like League of Doom, right? That's kind of wanting to plot his downfall. And
Solomon Grundy want pants too.
Someone writes a satire making fun of Richelieu.
Yeah.
And was it Grandier? Probably not, but yeah, everybody says, oh no, it was totally Grandier. That dick you hate who walked in front of you? That guy who's preventing you from taking down those walls? Yeah, he's the one who wrote that. You should go kick his ass, right? It's like schoolyard shit.
Yeah. Man, he told me that your mom swims out to troop ships.
So we're in full-blown conspiracy territory here.
Oh, God. Okay, good. Now we're back into the show's territory.
Right? And this is going to pay off when we move into our next episode. But as we wrap up here, I want to leave us with yet one other small element of the tensions of Loudun. One that sounds out of left field, but has a connection we'll get into next time. This is kind of our teaser for the next half.
Ooh.
Now, in 1626, an Ursuline convent was established in Loudun. The convent was rumored to be haunted, and some of the nuns there had taken to practical jokes. Specifically, a group of young nuns had taken to wearing sheets and rattling chains around the convent's attic while the monastery was under lockdown as the plague began winding down. It was meant to be good fun, a way to distract from the isolation of being locked in a monastery as the world fell apart outside. It is in this moment, next time, we'll meet the final conspirator in the downfall of Father Urbain Grandier, one Jean de Angus. Angus, so Jean de, God, man, I fucking hate saying these French words.
Jean de Agnes.
Jean de Agnes. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, whatever. Fuck it.
And that's where we're going to end for now. So this is all set up to get to the actual nuns. Well, what do you think?
Mike, what do you think?
Mad that there's no nuns, although I know they're not hot nuns.
One of them literally has a humpback.
I mean, nuns.
Well, we know she humps.
There's the the platonic ideal, or not platonic, carnal ideal of nuns, which is just hot ladies. But nuns are nuns for a reason.
Yeah,
they couldn't get married, or maybe they were just a little too devout.
I've never met a nun under the age of 60.
Oh, nuns have to start somewhere. I'm sure there's a lot of
widows
born old,
that become
nuns.
When we think of nuns, we probably think of like the Castle Black of Monty Python and the Quest for the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Castle Anthrax.
Castle Anthrax with Zoot.
That's right.
Wicked naughty Zoot.
Wicked naughty Zoot, just bathing, dressing, and undressing.
Well, I always find the history of France to be fascinating. And earlier, I called Richelieu an architect to the modern world, and I stand by that. We're living in the aftermath of the choices made in that country that would allow them to help during the American Revolution, and that in turn led to the French Revolution. It's all connected in so many interesting ways. And that being said, they were all sex-crazed, maddened perverts that need to be washed.
Well, stinky baguettes.
Stinky baguettes flopping against your knees.
Ookie baguette. Who wants to play?
Ugh. Ookie baguette is all over the floor. You're going to have to eat it.
Oh, God.
Oh, God. I feel terrible doing this accent.
So
I feel like French accent is the one accent you can still get away with.
Any white person accent you can get away with.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Definitely French.
I want to dip my stinky baguette in your au jour.
Oh, I'm going to dip my balls in it.
I'm starting to regret this episode.
Yep. I'm glad we taught you a lesson there, David. But that's okay, because it did give us a chance to do Matt Berry impressions, and that was worth it.
Outrageous French accents.
Oh, man, just
look at the beautiful women crawling in the mud.
Like if this was peak Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, Matt Berry, with like a Van Dyke. Too perfect, man.
Yeah, no, I want to see that. Oh my God, I want to see that. Oh, David, this was a fun one. Thank you for that.
Yes,
Mike,
thank you for having me.
Mike, did you enjoy yourself?
Sure. I enjoy hearing about perverted French priests.
And enabled by architecture. All this sexual fuckery enabled by architecture for the longest time.
Both social and physical architecture.
Yeah,
and all spurred on by locking a bunch of boys in a house for years on end. Wow. So, before we go into the last spiel, Mike, have you got anything you want to promote or anything you want to bring attention to?
No.
Okay. David, you got any plugs?
Yeah, I think we should save the whales.
Really?
Well, what about the dolphins? Jeez. I mean, everyone's always save the whales, but nobody says save the dolphins.
Yes, they do.
You know what? Fuck you. We'll throw the dolphins in there. Save the whales and dolphins. Now what do you got?
I'll throw the dolphins in a damn tuna net. Go fuck yourself. No. But, okay, save the whales. That's yours?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to say go...
I'm kind of fried, dude. I'm kind of fried right now, I'll be honest with you.
No, I understand. It's a long doc. Mm-hmm. It's only 33 pages. I mean...
That's all.
Yeah. I'm going to say be sure to donate to your LGBTQ plus organizations.
Yeah.
This is a shit world right now, and they're going to need all the help they can get.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, if you're into any form of magic, I'm not telling you to do rituals and spells against people that are in my head right now. But, I can't stop you if you do it.
And you know what? If you live in a very defensible town with, walls and, the Catholic Church wants you to tear them down, don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Keep them walls.
Fuck it. Yeah, keep your walls. Keep your sex walls. So... Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can head to supernatpod.rocks. That is supernatpod.rocks. You can find a link to our Discord, our Patreon, our merch store, and you can find every episode of both Supernat and The Distraction Hole. And who knows, in the future, maybe a show about history. So, again, thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next week with another Week in Weird. And I know I've got fucking chaos magic coming in a couple of weeks. That's going to be interesting.
I'm so worried for you.
Are you?
Yeah, I am.
I'm going to get into it?
Yeah, I think it's going to, awaken something in you.
Well, here's the thing. I already tried it, and it didn't work. So, ha.
Well, you're doing a lot more reading on it now.
Yeah, it's true. Well, the book is a lot. This book is a lot more fun. Anyway, you know what? We'll talk about it when we get there. So, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time. Don't forget to like and leave a comment and subscribe and all that fun YouTube-sounding shit. We'll see you next time. So until then, stay safe and stay frosty. Goodbye.
Night, night.
Now, Mike, watch out for sigils on the floor. Make sure you don't step on them because they're probably going to be gooey.
Yes, I
Do
know.
not step on this sigil made out of my Uki baguette.
It's only if he hasn't set fire to them yet.
I flushed one down a toilet one time. I don't think it worked.
Yeah, you know, if that worked, Kevin, you.
Yeah, you and half of the, you and like 90% of teenagers when they discover their
No.
bodies.
I'm talking about the sigil, you ding-dongs. I'm talking about a piece of paper. I flushed it down the toilet. Jesus.
Did you wipe your ass with it first?
No.
I think that was your problem. You didn't.
I'm not wiping my ass with printer paper, Mike.
You should have wrote it on toilet paper then.
It was printed. I had a sigil generator.
That's your point. That's the problem. You didn't take the time to lovingly hand draw it and infuse it with your energy of thought.
Why the fuck didn't you tell me then?
Because I didn't know you were doing weird, dumb magic stuff.
God damn it.
My wife just handed me an inhaler because I'm laughing.
Goodbye, everybody.